The message is the Jewish people are not going to be governed by nature. And this explains a little bit, if you can explain it. It explains a little bit the anti-Semitism that has existed throughout history. The most consistent law of nature is anti-Semitism. No one violates that law. It's predictable, it's reproducible, it's consistent all over the world. What is anti-Semitism? Aside from ugliness, nastiness, and cruel dictators, what really is the core of anti-Semitism? The core of anti-Semitism is the friction between nature and the supernatural. For example, what is the controversy over Israel? It's such a ridiculous discussion and conversation. And Rashi says it right at the beginning of the Torah. There's going to come a time where the nations of the world are going to complain that you took away their land. You stole it. So first of all, how can you steal a land? It's real estate. You can't steal real estate. You can possess it. You can conquer it, which is what everybody in the world has been doing since the beginning of history. You conquer a country, it's yours. No one ever questioned that, including the Torah. The Torah nowhere says that it is against the laws or the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach to take a land away from a people and occupy it or settle it. If you conquer a land, it's yours. That's universally acceptable and a fact of life. So much so, the people are going to complain that the Jews stole the land of Canaan. That's a joke. Canaan is a descendant of Ham, of Noach's 3 sons. It was Ham who was the grandfather of Canaan. Now, after the flood, the 3 sons of Noach divided up the land among themselves. Israel was given to the sons of Shem. But Canaan came and took it from Shem. So when Jews captured the land of Canaan, they were simply taking back what was originally theirs. They're Semites. Canaan is Hamites. So how dare you complain that Israel, the Semites, took the land from the Canaanites? It was their land to begin with. And when the Canaanites took it, nobody complained. You capture a country, it's yours. So why would the nations accuse Jews of stealing land? There's no such thing as stealing land. Well, maybe until the Geneva Convention. What they're complaining about is this. Every land is up for grabs. Whoever conquers a land becomes its owners. The Angles captured a land, it became England. The Poles captured a land, it became Poland. The strange thing with Israel is the Babylonians captured Israel and it remained Israel. It was never Babylonia. The Romans captured Israel. It never became Rome. It was Israel. The Turks, the British, no matter who occupies the land, it remains the land of Israel. So the world is saying, wait a minute, how did you steal the land like that? You stole it because you took it out of the mix where anybody can capture it, possess it, and become the owners. That's not true of Israel. No matter who captures it, it remains yours. How'd you do that? In other words, why doesn't Israel, the land, follow the same rules as every other land? Why isn't it subject to the same reality? Now, at this point in history, it is ridiculous to ask that question because I don't know why. You tell me. But look at the fact. Throughout history, no matter where the Jews were, and no matter who was in Israel, everybody referred to it as Israel. It never became Babylonia, it never became Rome, not even to the Romans. They never renamed it. It was the Holy Land, whether it was the Muslims or the Christians with the Crusades, it was the Holy Land that they were fighting about. So now, the anti-Semite can't blame Jews anymore. It's not like we did it. It's become a fact of history. No one ever renamed the land, even while they occupied it. The same is true with Jews themselves. Why don't we live by the same rules as everybody else? What rule don't we live by? If you believe in Christianity and practice Christianity, you are a Christian. If you believe in Islam and you practice Islam, then you're a Muslim. Unless you're Jewish. If you're Jewish, then even while you practice Islam, even while you practice Christianity, even while you practice Buddhism, Hinduism, or whatever else you want, who are you? You're a Jew. How did we get to have different realities? That's the anti-Semitism. Not necessarily the vulgar, violent anti-Semitism, but the discomfort, the fact that Jews don't fit. What is it about Jews that we don't fit? We try so hard to fit. We try to out-goy the goy. And we don't fit. Every country we've been in for more than a week and a half, we have assimilated, we've taken on their culture, we've taken on their philosophies, even their religion. And we don't fit. We don't fit because even when we take on their religion, it's a Jew practicing their religion. Right? Why can't you just become something else, like everybody else? That's why we don't fit. So there's this professor in Israel. What's his name? It's a French name. Dubois. And he was once asked, "You've been in Israel for 25 years. How would you define a Jew?" And he said, a Jew is somebody who is religious without knowing it. And even when he converts to Christianity, he does so in a uniquely Jewish way. Pretty insightful. Well, what exactly does it mean? How can you be religious and not know it? I mean, religion is a faith, it's a conviction, it's a practice. How can you be convicted of something and not even know it? How can you believe in something and not know it? So what does it mean you can be religious without knowing it? So the professor didn't get it quite right. What he should have said, and what he meant to say is, Jews are relating to God even when they're not religious. So to a Jew, his relationship with God is not a religion. It's like the king's children need to be loyal citizens. It doesn't apply to them. They don't need to be good citizens to be related to the king. So we are connected to God, whether we like it, whether we don't, whether we know it or we don't, we're connected. So when you feel connected and you act like you're connected, it's not a religion. It's just who you are. So anti-Semitism means the question that bothers people, how come you don't submit to the same reality? So it's never a question, are we better, are we worse, are we smarter, are we more moral, less moral? That was never the question. Because either way, we'd have anti-Semitism. So the real question is, how did you get beyond the laws of nature? How did Israel become different from every other piece of geography, where it can't be captured like every other country? Why is that? So the point of it is that we are an unnatural, different reality than everybody else. And that's why the first Jew had to be born miraculously. Sarah was not capable of having children. So the birth had to be miraculous. And Yaakov had to be born miraculously. And Yosef had to be born miraculously. And that's why the mitzvah of circumcision is at 8 days, because that's not natural, that doesn't make any sense. How does a baby of 8 days old connect to God? To connect to God, you have to have a religion, a philosophy, you got to be smart, theology. No. 8 days old, you're connected to God. And that, of course, explains our survival. How is it that despite the efforts of the entire world to eliminate the Jewish people, we're still here? We don't eliminate. Because our existence is miraculous to begin with. So what force in nature can undo what is unnatural? The forces of nature can affect nature. They can't affect